Joining me now is another 2025 inductee, Bob Boni. Bob, congratulations. We never have gotten to catch up quite yet, but no better time than now.
Okay, now, whatever you want to ask, just ask.
Congratulations. Now, thinking about this long, lustrous career you've had, so many great horses have made their way through and passed through your life.
Yeah.
No surprise you're standing here, right, in this Hall of Fame?
Well, it's more than that, the horses, but I always tell people, the horses bring you here. That's the attraction, but inevitably it's the people. I always feel it's the people that you meet.
And you've gotten to meet so many great people along the way, right?
I've been very, very fortunate.
Well, let's get back to business here. Let's start out seriously. Go Yankees!
Yeah. Finally today they won a game. I was a little skeptical, but at least they won it. They're having a little bit of a tough go right now.
Now let's go back to fourth grade. The young Bob Boni. He said, "You know what? I'm going to take a little interest here in standardbreds and harness racing." You traded in your baseball cards for a race program.
My father and his partner bought a racehorse. Mm-hmm. His name was Sam Sanders. He was a bombs away who made lots of breaks, and they had some trainer who thought that he could improve Billy Houghton. They bought him, and I was in the fourth grade, and that's when I went to maternal families from baseball cards.
And that's just kind of been the secret of this success.
And it was kind of a little bit of a semi-full circle moment, because getting to know Billy as I did and have the relationship with him made it that much more special.
Now we skipped ahead a little bit, but what about the journey from Pine Hollow to Northwood Bloodstock, right? That was a heck of a journey too, and your mom had something to do with that.
Well, there were a couple of jumps in between. I went from Pine Hollow I went into business for myself.
Yes.
And that would have been 1980, and I just felt it was time. I was starting to, myself and my boss at that point, I wasn't agreeing all the time, and I didn't feel I shouldn't be paid by him if I can't agree with everything he said. And I went into business for myself, and Morty Finder, who was my boss then, could not have been better. He treated me as if I was still working there. And then we went from there I was International Standardbred. Mm-hmm. International Standardbred eventually Dream Air became Northwood. And now it's Alliance Bloodstock.
So all of the bloodlines have kind of worked their way down. Now we're going back and we're talking about some horses with the names of Camtastic, Annihilator. These horses were...
the best horse I've ever owned. And he was a thrill, everything he did. That was 2 years of 35 wins, 38 starts. That's pretty good. And he was just great. He was a dominant horse. Camtastic was also a dominant 2 and pretty much a 3, and he won British Crown 2 and 3 and was second at 4. But he was just a wonderful horse.
Now, when we talk about having once-in-a-lifetime type of horses, you've had that quite a few times in your life. What has that been like for you?
It takes some luck. You'd like to position yourself that if you get lucky, you can do good. And I remember years ago saying to people, I've been a Yankee fan all my life, and they've done nothing but great. I've had great pleasure and great joy. I've had Annihilator and Camtastic, which is pretty good. So if I never have another horse go forward, I'm good. And then here comes Always Be Mickey.
Yeah, well, you had Always a Virgin, of course.
Always a Virgin first, but then Always Be Mickey went a little different level.
Now, when we talk about you, I think about you being a bit of a game changer when it came to marketing horses and horse sales, coming up with the idea of videoing horses to be sold at sales, and also purchasing fillies that had already raced that could come prospect broodmares.
That was a partnership that was formed with myself, Danny Kramer, and some other people. And the thought was at that time, and these are things that could be done then, could not be done now, that rather than buy, as I said to Danny once, we could go through 50 yearlings, pacing fillies, before we come up with a stakes winner or 2, a good enough one. So then we started to buy privately and buy mares that were good at 2, that we thought we could maybe either step up or maintain, but that they had the breeding and everything to make them good to go forward. And that's where that came from. What I'm very proud of, when we sold that group of mares, we had 20 mares. We had 5 with records to show you how times have changed. We had 5 with records of 55 or faster when there were only 20 in existence. We had 2 of 50. We just had such a corner, and no other farm owned more than 2. That was part of it. But they were all mares that had made a lot of money, fast records, and then one was Lashkara, who turned out to be the dam of Camtastic.
And when you talk about that, you said you need a little bit of luck, but it sounds like you've kind of.
Yeah, but you still have to get lucky. I don't care who you are. Uh, it's funny. I was telling somebody a story today about pretty good horse back in his day, Bee Gees Bunny. Mm-hmm. And it was the first horse that this gentleman bought. Bob Greenberg was his name, the BG. And I remember when the horse went to stud, I spoke to him about maybe we could work a deal. Pine Hollow, you'd be interested in standing him. And he told me he already had a deal in the works. But you can have the next one. There never was a next one.
Right.
You really have to, and that was his first horse he ever bought.
Yeah.
So luck goes along, but you still have to do things the right way to get lucky.
Now, when we talk about being lucky, now you talk about all the horses you've had the success with. Have there ever been any misses that you kicked yourself and said, dang it, I should have did that, or I should have had that one?
I think the good thing is I can't think of one right away.
That's really good.
I can't, I don't count, yearlings I don't count because, when you go to public auction, I've always felt that if somebody else bought it and it was really good or it was bad, that doesn't mean it would have been the same someplace else.
Yeah.
But I can't think of a horse that I say, gee, we should have done X or Y. Basically, it all worked out pretty good.
Now, I know there's a little secret to your success. Can you give anybody who wants to be the next Bob Boni, can you give them a little tip to that? Or is it just about luck?
The one wonderful thing about this business, I was telling some, the people in this business, the trainers, the owners, the trainers, drivers especially, they're so generous with their time that you can ask them anything, and so get information. And if you work at it, there's no guarantee but you're going to be okay. It's a business that if you work, you'll be okay. I said to someone today, you can walk up. I was reminiscing about the old Goshen when I first came up here, where all the major stables, Dancer, Houghton, O'Brien, they were right in the grandstand area, and you could walk up to anybody, and chat with them before I was even really working. You go to a basketball player that's making $27 million, he might not want to give you the time of day. These guys, the Jimmy Tactors, the Scotty Zeron, the David Millers, Billy Houghton, they'd have a conversation with anybody. And that's what I think separates a lot of what we do compared to other businesses.
You're leaving a legacy behind you as you enter these halls of the Hall of Fame.
I'm not going anywhere.
Right. But if you had to say one thing, when people think of Bob Boni, the legacy that you leave when you enter these halls, what would you want it to be?
It's probably, they're going to talk about some of the horses. I've said this a number of times. I had a very significant involvement with the appropriation in Jersey. I worked very closely with Kathy Parker initially, and then with John Campbell. And this was our little secret. And through a gentleman who's a very powerful guy in Jersey, who was a partner of Lou's, partner of mine, we were able to get the first appropriation. And when it was a long shot, and as you saw, it was recently renewed, and I think it gave Jersey a stability that's more than just owning a horse. Owning a horse is good for me. The stability of the appropriation is good for everybody.
And good for everybody, and of course good for the sport. One more question I have before I let you down. Bob, have you had fun?
I've had a ball. I was up here at Pine Hollow Stud Farm for 11 years. Mm-hmm. I started out, I made $85 a week and cleaned all the stalls I could clean. And I can tell you in 11 years, I can't look back and say it was like bad times, bad days. It was great. Being with the horses was so good. It was so good. And I'm a city kid, but being with the horses really made it worthwhile.
Bob, thank you so much for your time. We're going to let you go,
okay.
And congratulations once again, Bob Boni, one of our 2025 inductees.